Alright guys, today we're going to do an update on pretty much everything. So first up here is the go-kart. I haven't showed you guys this thing in a while. I just recently pulled this bad boy out of hibernation to get a top speed figure off of it. A lot of people always ask me how fast this thing goes and I never really had an answer for them, so I finally GPS'd it with my cell phone. But that video will be coming up real soon, so keep an eye out for that. On the Murray, there's been a few changes, nothing major. You can see, I don't know if I've ever showed you this, but I added mesh into the grill of the hood on two spots on the top and the front, and it's really non-functional except for this part. This kind of helps keep the large chunks of mud and debris from entering the cooling fins of my motor, so that's actually kind of a good thing there. The only other thing that changed on the Murray was the addition of a tether switch, and that tether switch actually was donated by the racing lawnmower because the racing lawnmower doesn't really need a tether switch because the throttle returns to closed and basically stops if you fall off of it, whereas this thing just keeps on going. So I felt like the tether switch was better utilized here on the Murray off-road mower. No complaints about the rear tires. So far so good. They seem to work pretty good. I haven't had them on a trail yet, but around the yard and just running around, they've done pretty good. If anything, the big problem is they grip too good, because I can't slide the ass end around corners like I used to be able to do with the Trail Wolves. Now they just grip and the whole tractor just kind of wants to throw me off, which is why the tether switch is now equipped on this machine. The Sears. A few things have actually changed on the Sears. The first of which is actually fairly unnoticeable. You look underneath here and you see this addition of a piece of 2x3 square tube steel. I believe that's the size. I'm not 100% sure. I might be wrong. But I used that to lift the seat 2 inches because I wanted a little extra clearance between the bottom of the seat and my rack here. There wasn't very much space. So if anyone other than me, if anyone was heavier than me, which I'm a pretty light dude, this seat would actually bottom out on the rack and you were basically riding on the rack. It was a pretty rough ride. Sort of sucked. So I decided to bump that up 2 inches. It gets rid of that whole interference problem. Now it's just a smooth ride for everyone. The other thing is my oil pressure gauge. It does work, but I don't think it works properly. As you can see there, the tractor is not currently running and it's reading 75 psi, and I'm fairly certain there is not residual pressure in the line. I think the oil pressure gauge is just defective. I found this gauge in my toolbox. It was from the previous owner of this house. I don't even know the history of that gauge or where it came from. I just decided to throw it in. I think it's defective, so I'm going to have to replace it with another one. On this side, you can notice the addition of this weird gooseneck brake lever, and I did that because almost every time I set the parking brake on this particular tractor, I would just jump back on it after I was done doing whatever I was doing, put it into gear, and just drive away. And the parking brake, well, let's just say the diesel motor's got so much torque that you could not hear the motor burden at all when the parking brake was locked. And mind you, you can drag this tractor with the rear wheels locked with the parking brake on, but for some reason the diesel motor has absolutely no issue driving with the brakes on. So more often than not, I would catch myself driving with the parking brake on and then screw the brake up and have to adjust it over and over again. So I made the addition of this new really obnoxious gooseneck handle. As you can see, when I fold it back, it actually contacts your crotch, which is really uncomfortable, which is exactly what I wanted. So that way when you get back on the tractor and you realize there's something touching your crotch, it's probably the e-brake. So it reminds you to shut the damn thing off before you shift it into gear. But nothing else has really changed with the Sears, just a slight seat adjustment and an emergency brake change. Other than that, the thing functions pretty good as it is, so I really don't see a reason to change much of anything on it yet. We've also got the lifted mudding mower in here, and this is probably the last time you'll see it as a complete whole one-piece unit. I toyed with the idea of getting this thing going one last time for one last romp, but really, it just doesn't sound that appealing to me. I just want to take this thing apart, use the pieces. I mean, I've almost got, I want to say close to $100 just in this rear axle setup alone when you include the hubs, the locking rings, the lock nuts for the ends of the axle, the sprocket, the brakes, the brake caliper, everything. I mean, you're looking at almost $100 just right here right now, which is just pretty ridiculous. Everything else on it should be pretty good. I don't know about the transmission. I believe the transmission still works. I don't know that for a fact yet. The battery is still good. The engine's still good. It actually had 3/4 of a tank of fuel when I got it home, which I drained and used to mow the lawn. I was smart enough to cover the carburetor air filter intake with a plastic shopping bag, so when it sat at my buddy's house over the winter, it didn't get totally screwed over. So as far as I know, the engine still runs. I haven't actually tried it yet though. But this thing is definitely not my favorite build, so I just kind of want to strip it down for parts. I'll probably use the chassis and frame for something else. Maybe I'll make a small racing mower for the track out of it, just, you know, a kind of a kick around vehicle. And due to popular demand, it turns out I will be doing build videos on the Redneck side-by-side. A lot of you guys are wanting to see the build process on this thing and basically what I come up with, and I can appreciate that. I've built my channel pretty much on build videos, so I don't have a problem with doing a few more for you guys. It should be a fairly simple build, quite easy to replicate. I'm not going to go crazy with this thing because the intent is basically for the wife and kids to be able to ride it in the field out back. Which brings me to the next project, which is the Redneck Raceway. I've officially dubbed it the Redneck Raceway because what the hell, it's not an oval track and it's pretty redneck. You might have noticed from the last video of me doing high-speed laps with the off-road Murray that I actually resurfaced some of this track with some sand, trying to fill in the bumps and the grooves. And it's starting to smooth out a little bit, though I do have a little bit more work to do. I know pretty much everyone that watches my video about the racetrack pretty much gives me shit about having these metal poles surrounding the track. And here's what you guys got to realize. This track is in the very, very early stages of construction, so doing the layout and showing you video of a track that basically doesn't exist is really hard to do unless you have some sort of visual marker. So the only reason these things are out here is for visual markers for me, for you, reference. You know, nobody's racing on this track except for me yet. Now that the track is pretty well beat down, I'll be removing them. They won't exist anymore, but even if they did stay, you'd be able to kick these things over with 1 foot, no problem. So hitting them with a lawnmower is really kind of low impact. So here's some of the stuff I've been using to try to get this track in order. This is a drag. This is actually like what I call it the ripper. I towed this behind the Sears, and it's nothing but a bunch of bolts. These are actually head bolts from my Jeep when I changed the head. And they're about 8 inches long, and they dig down into the soil. They're going through a piece of square tube steel there, rectangular tube steel. Stube steel, new word. But yeah, I basically tow this behind the Sears, and these spikes rip into the sod and just create these just deep rut lines that basically kill off the grass. I've got this is a Jeep rim, one of my bent ones, and I basically just bolted it down to the drag here, and I only use it so I can stack rocks inside of it. You can see it's actually got a grill. This is from one of my hibachi grills that failed me, so I just stuck it in there so I can stack the rocks on top of it and get some weight on this ripper, so when I drag it around the track, it just destroys everything. Also been using this pallet just to spread the sand out as I surface the track. Not really sophisticated. I just chain this thing up to the back of the Sears, throw a couple rocks on it, and drag. So as some of you may already know, I have been building an actual legitimate groomer for the track. I just can't use it yet until the vegetation is gone. But you can see I've got like a series of rippers here on the front, and these actually protrude about 1 inch below the surface of the front skids. These are to keep it from nosediving into the dirt as I drag it along. And then I get a series of 1, 2, 3 leveling blades on this thing. So the theory is these rippers will break the compaction on the surface about 1 inch below, and these grooming blades will come in and then pick up that soil and smooth it out and level it out and break up the clumps. Now if you just want to groom and not agitate the soil, you can retract this agitator blade. It's kind of hard to demonstrate with one hand, but it does lock over here on the other side. If you pull this pin, it'll actually lock down right there, so it doesn't accidentally fall down while you're grooming. But I've also got a series of bars kind of going back and forth and across here, and that's actually to support some sort of weight. So while you're grooming, this whole groomer will have more weight than it already is. This thing probably weighs like 100 pounds as it stands right now. But I can stack rocks, or the big idea is actually a water tank on the back of this bad boy with an emitter across the back. So as I drag and groom, I can actually be soaking the track as well to keep the dust down. And then there's the trailer. This thing desperately needs new decking, which I'm actually going to be taking care of that sooner than later, because as romping season approaches quickly, I realize I really don't have a means of transporting my tractors, especially with this plywood lifting off the frame like it is. I'm afraid of this piece of plywood just basically ripping off at highway speeds and smashing some Volvo in the fucking windshield. So I'm probably going to take care of that. I'm thinking 2x6 hemlock chunks, big, heavy, burly pieces of wood on this bad boy. Probably be making build videos. I got to rewire the whole thing. I got to redeck the whole thing, check the frame for rot, all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for this video, this update video. Just kind of giving you guys a little preview as to the things that I've been doing kind of off camera. I don't know what's going on with my camera right now. I can see the lens is fogging. I have no idea why. It's really sunny out here and there must be moisture inside. So I'm gonna go stick this thing in a baggie filled with rice and hope to God I can get the moisture out before it kills itself. But let me know what you guys think. I've been doing a lot of shit, so it's kind of crazy here. I'm sorry for the lack of videos, but that should be changing real soon. You know, with it being spring and everything happening really quickly, I've been real busy, but as of right now, things are starting to slow down, so I should be able to start doing build videos on the Redneck side-by-side real soon. And I'll be able to fill you in on what's going on with that. But until next time, let me know what you think about this video. Please rate and comment, and I will see you in the next video next week.